Welcome to the Worship Luthier. So today I'm going to show you the second phase in the build series on the Albatross, and that is the back and side. So what I'm holding in my hands here is what I finished for this build series, and as you can see, I've machined out the sides and the back out of mahogany. I've also created the arch in the back, as you can see. We've got a nice carve on the back of there, and I put a little bit of Danish oil on as well after sanding, just to see what the wood would look like, and just to my surprise I got a little bit of flame in the mahogany, so that was a nice surprise. Join me for the rest of the video as I show you the process. I started out by making a clear plastic template that I could use to mark out the guitar on the rough timber and figure out which pieces of wood to use and get them all lined up, and also look at the grain when you're marking it out. That template is very useful. The next step was to plane the edges of the timber that I'm going to use for the back. That was around about 20 millimeters thick. So that's the gluing surface. I had to make sure it was nice and straight. Yeah, I started the glue up. It was a little tricky, getting all the sash clamps in line, working with a few pieces of wood. You can see that I have 4 pieces in total, the 2 main sides, and then those small pieces are added on from the waist so that the grain matches up nicely. Then I applied the glue to the surface and made sure that it is nice and evenly spread. And I like to use my finger for that. I don't think there's any better way to do it. It's not easy to get everything in the right place when you're working with all these loose components, and to get your clamps in the right position and then to start gluing it up. But once you get the first one on, it gets easier. It's important to keep all the pieces in line with one another while you're gluing them. So I put a piece of wood on the top and the bottom that I could clamp together and keep everything in its place before I put the sash clamps in position. So here I'm removing all the clamps. That's always an exciting part of the build, when your glue is dry and you can remove everything and see what the new assembly looks like. So it's always a good idea to remove some of the glue, the squeeze out from the joints before going to the next step, which was to level the glue top in my drum sander. It's definitely time to resharpen my chisels because I was struggling a little bit with this chisel, which has been a while since I sharpened it. I used my Japanese saw just to cut off the excess before taking the top through the next phase of getting it level and sanded and prepared for the CNC machine. In this clip I'm marking out the shape of the guitar body on the top, using the template that I had cut out of my CNC machine earlier. So here you can see it's always good to have a template before you start, because you use it multiple times in the build to mark things out. The next step was to get everything level, and I ended up using my CNC machine for the surfacing. I couldn't get the joints 100% accurate, so I had a little bit of leveling to do on these parts. Here my CNC is starting with the carve of the inside contour of the top. So this is a concave shape that it's cutting out. And I did that because I needed to use the back surface as a reference after I glued it together onto the sides. So I waited for the carve of the outside till right at the end of this process. So the CNC usually starts in the center, and it's whatever you set as your depth of cut, it'll go down and it'll just keep going until it reaches the contour that you've programmed it to reach. So here you can see my CNC has got to one of the final steps in the process. This is doing the final shaping of the inside contour. So now it's taking its time, and it's taking a little bit off at a time and creating the final shape. Then I started with the sides, and the sides were made from 45mm thick mahogany. That's an African mahogany, and here I'm cutting the pieces, getting them ready for gluing them up. They've already been thickness to the right thickness, and I've used my template to mark out where I want everything to be. So here I'm planing the edge of the mahogany that I'm going to be using for the sides, preparing it for the gluing up process. So here I'm gluing up the sides. Similar process to what I used for the front. Alright, then the exciting part of joining them all together. So here I'm putting glue on to the inside of the top edge and preparing it to glue up to the sides. And I'm not sure if you can see clearly, but I do have little holes that I've CNC'd for alignment purposes along the center line at the top and the bottom, and on the two sides, the widest part of the guitar. And I've put small 4mm pegs in there so that when I join it all together, then I can keep my alignment. And it also helps me get everything in position when I take things on and off the CNC machine. So there you can see the one hole poking through the glue area by the neck. That was one of the alignment holes that I had. The next important thing is getting everything lined up, and as I said, I used those little pegs and placing it down and applying all the clamps for the glue up. So the next step was to put the completed back and sides the right way up onto the CNC machine, and then to start cutting out the inside of the sides. So here I'm using my 6mm cutter, the longest one that I have, so that you can get all the way down through the 45mm block of the sides, and then cut out that center portion. So I also used a 6mm ball nose cutter to make the sides a little bit thinner, but to leave the radius at the joint, at the bottom between the top and the back, the sides. So this is what this cut is doing. It's got a ball nose on the end so that it can create the radius that I wanted. That just increases the gluing surface between the back and the sides. Then I used my 6mm straight edged cutter again to create the recess, because I'm going to be recessing the top into the sides. So here you can see about halfway through the process, I'm taking it down around about 3mm, and that's creating that step that I can glue the top of the front onto once that has been created and braced and has all the sound hole decorations. So the last step in the CNC process here would be to cut out the outside shape before I have to actually flip it over again. So here I'm using my long cutter, my 6mm cutter again, and I'm going all the way through. So that was 45 plus 20, 65mm that I had to cut all the way down to the sides. But after this step I've got a guitar sized body, so that was quite exciting. Then I flipped it over and using those alignment pins that I'd created in my CAD earlier, I'd also drilled out those 4mm holes in the bed of my CNC so that I could get the body exactly in position when I flipped it. And here I'm starting the carve for the back to create the arch. So essentially this is an arch top guitar, but it has a flat front. So this is the rough cut process. It's going down about 4mm at a time using my 13mm ball nose cutter. Once all the rough cutting had been done, I have a final cut process where I'm taking the last 0.5 mm off with the ball nose cutter with a very fine step over so that I can get a nice smooth finish. I still have to do some sanding afterwards, but it's pretty much in the right shape that I want for the finished product. So here I'm sanding the back just to get all of the machining marks out, because it does leave a few of those. You can't get away from sanding. You're always going to be doing a lot of finishing yourself, a lot of sanding on a guitar, because it is woodwork. And then, although it's not finished, I thought I would put some finish on, some Danish oil, just to see what the wood would look like. It also helps me highlight any issues I might have in the finish, where there's some scratches I might not have taken out yet, some problems with the joints, the glue joints, etc. So I like to do this, although it's still pretty early in the process. I'm going to have to go through quite a few different stages of sanding. But it was nice to see the grain of the wood, and also to see any mistakes or any scratches or dents or glue problems that I might have to fix along the way. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that video, and join me next time when we look at the top that I'm making out of spruce. I'm also going to show you how I did the sound hole, the decorations around the rosette, and also I'm going to be taking a trip to Mark Maingard, and he's going to help me with tuning the top, putting the braces on, and really getting the best sound that I can out of the top. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.